All right, so today I am with my buddy Alex. Alex is the founder and CEO at Sporttrade, a company that I think is super interesting. So kind of just wanted to have him on here, chat super casually. I've spoken to you obviously a bunch off camera, and I think that you could provide a lot of value to the audience. So this is probably going to be a super short video, but it's going to be action-packed. So I guess kind of just to kick things off, for someone who doesn't know about Sporttrade, I guess give it a quick breakdown, and I'd love to hear about the inspiration, why you did this, and just like overview of your story.
Yeah, for sure. So I went to school at Drexel University, which is in Philly, and I was maybe a sophomore, and everybody started talking about Robinhood, and all the kids in the finance program had Robinhood on their phone. And they started to talk about, well, I got in at this price, or I bought Facebook before earnings or whatever. And I thought that was really interesting. And I became one of the early adopters with my $100 or whatever. And then sports betting was just kind of, people were starting to talk about sports betting in the US. And I thought to myself, like, man, someone's going to do this, but for sports, like they're not going to talk about, I just got Facebook before earnings. They're going to be like, I bought Jacksonville before that OT touchdown against the Cowboys. I bought the Eagles before the season at this dollars per share. And that was kind of the idea, is like, it's inevitable. Someone's going to combine sports betting and day trading. And that was how I kind of got my start. And then I kind of set out building, like, all right, how am I going to actually do this?
And then you did it.
And then I did it with the help of a lot of amazing people. And I learned how to build an exchange and how to build a trading app. And it's like, yeah, this is sports betting for sure, but it feels like, and you've used the product, but so maybe I should ask you, but like it feels more like trading than it does betting.
100%. Which I think kind of leads me to the next thing I want to ask you. In such a saturated space, what do you think makes Sporttrade so different? Obviously, I know what I think, and I don't want to make your answer biased. But what do you think makes Sporttrade special, and why should people use Sporttrade over other platforms?
I mean, what makes it special is that it's a totally different activity. I mean, like just the words we use, like shares and buying and selling and having a position. I think if you're someone out there and you're comfortable with making stock trades or making crypto trades, if you turn on the TV on Sundays and you watch the Eagles, or you watch the Jets, like imagine buying the Jets, right, at $20 a share, because, by the way, price is just probability, right? So $20 equals 20%. And you can hold those shares to the end and they pay out 100 if the Jets win, or if they don't, it pays out 0. So you're kind of playing this game like, now the Jets score a touchdown and they go to 40. You have this flexibility. So why use Sporttrade? Well, if you're already someone that's familiar with kind of or dabbled in trading before, or you just want more control over your betting activity, Sporttrade allows you to do that. Most of these other venues, FanDuel, DraftKings, PointsBet, Caesars, whatever, they're all the same. You place your bet, you wait to the end. On Sporttrade, it's, you have a portfolio and you'd be like, oh, I'm up $150 today. You know what? I can just press these buttons, cash out of everything, and watch the game.
Yep.
You can't really do that anywhere else.
That's the exact reason that I'm interested. I'm not like a huge sports guy, but I love using Sporttrade, and I think it's because it has that that setup that's like it's more geared, I think, towards the world of finance.
100%.
Which is super cool. I want to ask you something that I've noticed as a creator is that a lot of the gambling companies, betting companies are constantly trying to, do ads with everyone, right? A lot of them have huge budgets and they are constantly partnering up with influencers. And it's like a bit of a controversial topic. People will sort of look down on influencers for partnering up with certain brands in the space. And another thing that I was super impressed by when it comes to Sporttrade is like the messaging isn't the way it is with, I won't name any other brands, but we'll say some of the other brands that feel much more irresponsible. It feels like a lot of companies are kind of, profiting off of, in some cases, people's like vices, right?
100%.
And so with Sporttrade, I've noticed that the messaging is very straightforward. It's clean. I don't feel bad at all for partnering with Sporttrade. I feel good about partnering with Sporttrade. And so I want to like understand what how that happened, right? Like how did that become a priority to you? And like, what's your philosophy on your marketing?
Yeah, so it goes back to when I thought of the concept. Like, it wasn't to build an online casino. In fact, a lot in New Jersey, which is where we are live initially with Sporttrade, is that, you know, sports books can also offer casino gaming. So you might be playing on, you know, whatever app. They're all the same, right? And have a big win or a big loss, and then you get a push notification. Oh, let's win it back in roulette. And that to me is like where the line is, you know, because sports betting is a way to engage. You're already watching the game, and you're like, you know what? Okay, Cincinnati's here, or Panthers are at this. I'm going to buy them here. And like, oh, they just scored a touchdown. Now I'll sell them. Like a roulette wheel is not that at all. Like that is the engagement. Like that is the thing. Sports betting and what we call sports trading is something that can already enhance something that's already happening.
Right.
So it kind of goes back to like the initial impetus, and it's why we have some investors like Comcast and Techstars and NASDAQ, because they really believe that this is a marketplace, and we are enabling customers just to have more control over what they would be interested in doing anyway. So it kind of comes back to the vision. Like I didn't have a vision that people were going to be walking down the streets like this playing an online casino. It was more like just having like your stock portfolio, but for sports, like, yeah, man, I got the Jets to win the division all the way down at 7. Like, look, I got them at 50. Like, you know, and I think that was the vision, and casino just doesn't play anywhere in that. And then same with the marketing, kind of the way we think of it from a marketing perspective. Like we think that building a great product is what's going to attract customers long-term. Yep. And paying to bring in people, you know, on false promises or, you know, kind of ill-conceived marketing campaigns is not going to be sustainable. And so it's going to take longer. It's certainly a challenge for us. We certainly have a smaller budget than MGM, FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever. But like we're building this for this next generation. We're building it for the people like me and like you that maybe grew up with Coinbase, grew up with Robinhood, and never had to deal with Ameritrade, Fidelity, Schwab, E-Trade, whatever. So that's kind of the marketing vision.
Right. So it really all does come down to like the foundation of the actual product. It sounds like from what you explained, and I didn't even know this, but it sounds like a lot of the bigger brands kind of create this like funnel where it's like, oh, you won. Why don't you win more in roulette or some other game?
Yeah, that's how they work. So that's the sports betting can kind of be like the Trojan Horse. And so what they do is they don't put a ton of, you know, effort into sports betting product. They put a ton of marketing dollars into it, and then they take you from the crappy sports betting product into the crappy casino product where the margins are higher. Casino is not a game of skill. You can't be good at roulette as much as maybe your friends or my friends tell me you can. It's literally random.
Yeah.
But like pricing the Bengals to be the Buccaneers right now, like on Sporttrade, they're trading 55. Should they be 45? Should they be 65? There's an element of skill there, just like in trading, as you know, that we introduce. So that's the marketing campaign, strategy of the competitors. For us, it's like, no, this is a game of skill. This is a marketplace. There's market data. Everyone's on the exact same level playing field, and we'll never push you at 3 a.m. to say, hey, Matt, like great win on the Buccaneers. Like, why don't you try this table game?
I mean, it doesn't really feel like there are any true competitors. I guess we keep drawing it back to like some of the more like traditional gambling companies. But like in a world where the companies who are closest to what we would call a competitor, the fact that they're doing those things and you're not, like I think shows a lot about you and like sticking to your roots, and it's super respectable. So
awesome. Yeah, I mean, like there's probably more money we could make doing casino, but like I would just feel so terrible about that. Like at the end of the day, if you are a traditional sports book or if you're the casino, your profits are the customer's losses. On Sporttrade, the way it works is we charge a flat commission. So if you win $100, we take 2% of the 100. If you lose, you take zero. We take zero. So I think it's just like a totally different business model. And like I've maybe thought of like maybe an exchange for casinos where you're playing peer to peer. But again, it's just like it takes it out of a marketplace and into more straight gambling. And that's where I just lose interest. I just don't understand that customer. I don't understand that business model. Right.
Speaking of challenges, what are some of the biggest challenges that you deal with on a day-to-day basis? I guess this is kind of a double-sided question, but A, what are your biggest challenges? And B, speaking of your challenges, I know that a big one in general is, getting legal permission to operate in different states, right? So that's something that I find to be fascinating. So if you could share a little bit more about that and maybe some challenges that I or anyone watching wouldn't even think of.
Yeah, it's really, your audience is perfect to answer this question because, or to answer this question in front of, because so much of what we do is we're in the traditional sports betting space. And the traditional sports betting, competitive landscape doesn't quite see what this product is because they think of traditional sports betting and they say, well, what is this, buy and sell and contract and share and settlement and commission and position? Like, what the heck? Limit order, market order, but to someone like your audience, that's the bread and butter. That's the language. So I think one of the key challenges we have, and again, I think your audience may find this surprising, is connecting with that customer and getting in front of the customer in the most effective way. Because before we can scale this business, we have to understand, who is the customer? How do we acquire them? How do we retain them? And we've been doing some really interesting things the last month or so where we're I'll call customers, I'll text customers. I want to hear what they think about the product. And there's so many of them that get to it and they go, I heard about this and like, I saw an ad, I want to buy the Colts, but like I just don't know how to do that. And so that's a challenge, is like, how do you scale that? How do you like onboard customers in the most frictionless manner possible? And then to your point, like getting in new states is also a challenge. We have an incredible team. We're about 70 people here at Sporttrade, both on the tech side, operations, product, marketing, finance, whatever. On the tech and on the product side, like getting to new states, it just takes time. Because there's new product requirements. And if you launch in Indiana, you have to show this message if someone does this, versus if you're in Colorado, someone might have to provide additional data before they can open an account and whatever. So it comes with those challenges as well. But the most fun, interesting challenge is like the customer acquisition, understanding the customer. I'm sure it's like you had to understand your audience before you could create content for them, or else it would have missed entirely. Yeah. And that's where we are. We have to understand the audience.
It's actually really interesting you bring that up because I think, a lot of people always, comment on my videos or something or DM me. And people are always like kind of telling me about their businesses, right? And I actually think that that's such a fundamental thing. And obviously you can attest to this more than I can, but just having a lot of experience with founders, understanding who your customer is possibly the most important thing to do first, right? Like, because I mean, I think a lot of people think about, I have this idea and I think I can make a lot of money. And I think at the end of the day, it's about figuring out what you can do to provide value to your customers, and in return, they provide value back, generally financially. But I think that that's like a super interesting thing, like especially for anyone listening now who like is a founder or is soon to be a founder. I think that understanding your customer is so important. And like you said, it relates also to creating content, to really creating anything. So
yeah, I mean, in the sports betting industry, it's kind of tough because we had to build so much to be able to get to like a minimum viable product. If I ever get to be an entrepreneur again, if I were to be in an industry that has less barriers to entry, that would be the thing I'd be most excited about. So if you're out there in the audience and you're trying to think of something, you might think that entrepreneurship is like this sexy, amazing thing, and you're going to build this amazing product and everyone's going to use it. But you're totally right. Go find the audience that you think has a problem that you can solve and try to solve that problem if it's like literally pen and paper, because you'll find out so quickly what customers actually want. And, for Sporttrade, we had to get all the way this far to now we're at this point. And now we're starting to be able to do things because we're in the market, because we're licensed and regulated, where we can change things up. We can offer customer promo. We can get on the phone with a customer. We can launch a new product. A customer wants to do UFC. The next day, the UFC's in the app, and we get to see, wow, they engaged way more when they got to have a voice in what they actually traded on. That is like the magic of entrepreneurship. And I'm sure just like for you, like we're just scratching the surface. You are so far beyond us in this regard, but like truly fulfilling a customer need and having that product market fit of like, you putting content out there and getting this amazing engagement, like I'm sure that feels like, the coolest thing ever. And I think we're just scratching the surface on what that could be for us.
And I think even as far as like that feedback, and I'm sure that you went through this where in the beginning, you're probably in a better place for feedback now than you initially were because, I mean, in the beginning, it's hard to just get feedback from anyone, right?
Right.
But generally, the people who you're getting feedback from are your friends and
Yep.
your family, and everyone's going to tell you, this is great.
No one's going to tell you your baby's not cute, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I think, like, kind of a similar thing happened to me where after a while, and, you know, I know a lot of people have a hard time with some comments or feedback in general is just, like, mean.
Yep.
Which doesn't really affect me. I don't really care. But that was, like, the best thing that happened to me. Was like when it got to a point where, like, I mean, with creating content, I didn't really show many people until I was doing okay. But like when it gets to a point where people are telling you, I don't like this, you're doing this wrong, a lot of people would take that as a bad thing.
It's a great thing.
Oh my God, I screwed up. I'm like, this is great.
People care enough to
I'll
say
never
something.
make a video about like the Home Depot again. Like, you know, and so I was like, this is amazing.
Yep.
I guess to segue a little bit here, as a founder, how did you learn what you know now? Like you're obviously you're a young guy, and I think a lot of people have trouble with like getting from point A to point B, as far as like where like point A is like, you know, I'm a random college kid, I don't know anything, maybe I want to do this thing, to then getting to the point where it's like maybe you don't know everything, but you know what you have to do, like you know the direction you're going in.
Yeah, I think for me, like looking back, it was having this perhaps at times unrealistic naivety around what it would take to build a business. But you have to be that way. Like in order to be an entrepreneur and a founder, you have to be a little crazy.
Of course. Yeah.
Because it's the numbers are not in your favor. And there's a lot of safer things you could do with your life and your career. So, but that's okay. Like Paul Graham writes this great piece at YC, Y Combinator, which is this incredible incubator. We went through something similar, went through Techstars here in Philadelphia, which was backed by Comcast, which was great. And like for as naive as one could be and as foolish you have to be to get into entrepreneurship, if you get yourself that far, you end up surprising yourself with how much you can actually do. So you have these like two, you know, opposing forces that work together really well. So the advice or like what did I learn is like I just went into it thinking that I maybe had a lot of it figured out, to then learn all those lessons and have that energy to get through all those paper cuts, to now be on the other side where like I was telling someone just today, like I can't wait to find out. Like I can't wait until tomorrow because I'm going to learn so much more today that I'm going to apply tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's been like doubly true since we've launched. Like there's so many mistakes we've made since we've launched. So like we now text every customer. The first month and 2 months, customers would just sign up for the platform. And I guess I just expected that they would understand a totally new platform, that they wouldn't appreciate like a text. And like we're so small right now. We're learning so much about customers. You know, we're thinking about changing some of the lexicon on our app because we're now having these conversations. And I'm noticing, like, hey guys, do you guys hear that everyone's calling these shares and not contracts? Like, hey, why don't we call these things shares? So there's so many of those things that happen, and you just have to put yourself out there and just be totally unafraid to fail.
Yeah. That's super interesting. I mean, I think kind of the same thing happened to me where it's like, you don't know what you're doing. And I think always, like even to this day, at times, like I'll feel some sort of sense of imposter syndrome, which I think everyone does. So I think it's normal, but I think it's the type of thing where it's just like you just jump and do something, and you don't know what you're doing, but I think you kind of pick up pieces along the way, and it all works out. So one of the last things I wanted to pick your brain about, I guess this is for the more slightly more advanced founders than the last question was for. But say someone has a product that they've built. Maybe they're like a little bit more technical, and they want to raise money. I think that you're a really good example of this. You know, you raised $36 million, and not only did you raise $36 million, but you did it from some extremely credible sources. So what would your advice be to someone who has a good product, but maybe just doesn't even know where to go when it comes to raising money? Yeah,
so I guess the first place to start is if you have a product that at least works. Like you are way ahead of the curve because you don't even need, and there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, oh crap, I only have like back of the napkin. Like there are funds out there. There are these things called incubators out there, accelerators out there. That's what they expect. In fact, it's more about proving that you are someone that can learn, can be very feedback based, can adapt to new information, can communicate very well. Those are some of the qualities that make for really good founders. So a great place to start is check out Y Combinator, check out 500 Startups, check out Techstars, there's so many accelerators and communities out there where maybe you I think on average, by the third time you apply to YC is when you get in on average. Like almost no one gets in the first time. And you learn so much and then you try again and you get all this amazing feedback on your business, on your pitch deck. You'll end up maybe finding a co-founder during this process. One of my best friends met his co-founder interviewing for funding at YC. And they were talking about, what's your business? And then all of a sudden they're like, let's scrap that. Let's do this. Like in that moment. So you just go and you surround yourself with these people that are just insanely crazy, to be honest, and smart and driven and fantastic. So that's like an amazing place to start. And once you can raise money and get into an incubator, they take you in for 10, 15 weeks. You learn how to pitch your business. You learn how to build a team. You learn how to raise money. You learn how to find product market fit. And that's what we did at Sporttrade. And then ultimately coming out of that, that's what allowed, a company like NASDAQ to invest because they figured we had some sort of credibility, which maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but because like Techstars put their name on it. Well, now you got Techstars, now you get NASDAQ, and then you get the next domino to fall. So you just got to focus on the thing that's like directly in front of you. Yeah.
That's interesting. And I think also, at least in my experience, obviously it's a little bit different as a creator, but I think there are a lot of parallels. It's like when you surround yourself with these people, you realize that it's like, everyone's just a person, right? Yep. So it's like, it doesn't make these people less special, but it makes you feel like, when you go and grab a beer with somebody from, let's say, Y Combinator, you realize like, oh yeah, he's a person too, and maybe he like started this company that's now huge, but it just makes you kind of believe in the 100%. Possibilities much more.
Oh yeah, like there's every time I get to the next point, like in Sporttrade or in my kind of career, I'm always thinking, well, like, oh, that next step is going to require all these skills that I don't have, and then I meet the people that have reached that. I'm like, oh my gosh, they are just as flawed as I am.
Yeah,
they're humans. I'm sure has that like happened to you in your career? Like, because you probably have put these things on a pedestal, and then you realize you've eclipsed the things that you didn't think were possible, and then you realize the other people that did the same are just like you.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, it's happened. I think I've been pretty lucky to meet some of my favorite creators, and even founders. Like, I got to interview Justin Khan, the founder of Twitch, and a similar thing happened with that, where he was talking about how Amazon bought Twitch back a few years ago, and basically how like hundreds of millions of dollars were like dumped into his bank account. And I'm like, I knew the story from before, but actually like being there with that person and realizing like, yeah, like he's just a dude,
right?
Like, I mean, what he did was incredible. It doesn't take away from what he did, but like he is just a guy,
right?
And you realize the same things with like, there have been times where I've seen like some of the biggest creators that I really look up to, just like doing the most human things, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess at the end of the day, like that guy is not always in like super edited videos that are like, like it's like, yeah, it's also just a 25-year-old, right? Like,
yeah, it's very motivating, right? To like see that and encouraging, because you realize that, oh, yeah, I have a chance to be that. I can do that. That's doable. Yeah, same thing happens to me.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome.
For anyone watching, where can they find Sporttrade?
So you can find Sporttrade on Twitter at Sporttrade_app. I'm at @Kane47. I just retweet all of Sporttrade's tweets, and sometimes they retweet some of mine. So it's kind of one of those. And then we're on Instagram. You can find us online at sporttrade.com. And then we're on the App Store. Type in Sporttrade, If you're in New Jersey, you're going to get a sports betting experience that you just didn't even know possible. You're going to love it. And if you sign up and you place a trade, you'll probably get a text from yours truly thanking you for using the platform, because you'll probably teach me something new that I didn't already know.
To make it easier for you, there will be a link down in the description too. So make sure you go click it, check it out, and let us know what you think. Give us some good feedback.